3, 2.
All right. Good morning, everybody. Welcome to the Montgomery County Weekly Media Briefing. My name is Rich Madalino. I am the Chief Administrative Officer for the county government. I know many people are joining in just to see Mark Elrich, the county executive, but he is in Korea today on a trade and exchange mission for the county. So I will be hosting today's media briefing. So first, September 6th, just 2 days away, is the 248th birthday of Montgomery County, Maryland, the first Montgomery County in the country. You know, there are 17 Montgomery counties, but we're number one. So September 6th, 1776 is when the Maryland General Assembly created Montgomery County out of what was then parts of Prince George's and Frederick counties. So in just 2 years, we will be celebrating our 250th anniversary, as will the nation. So there will be a season of celebration to recognize the 250th anniversary of our great country and our great county. So be sure to be looking for developments about those celebrations across the region, across our county, and across our state. There is a Maryland 250, USA 250 commission already. So if you're interested in participating in those programs, look that up at the state level and certainly let the county know of your interest as we start to plan out our 250th anniversary. So today we are going to be talking about school safety at the Montgomery County Public Schools, considering we are now in week 2 of the 24-25 school year. We are pleased to be joined by 2 people who continue to have a lot to do with community safety and certainly school safety in Montgomery County. Many of you might know one person on the monitor, Marcus Jones. Marcus, I hope I pronounced your name right. Marcus is the Director of School Security and Compliance, School Safety and Compliance. And he is in his first school year with MCPS. He, of course, is no stranger to the issues around school safety, community safety in Montgomery County, having most recently served with distinction as our Montgomery County Chief of Police. Amongst many things, Marcus is a former MCPS parent and probably a sports coach, and is long engaged in our public schools. We are very fortunate that he's decided to keep his distinguished career going in public service in Montgomery County with the Montgomery County Public Schools. And then joining us today from the Montgomery County Police Department is Acting Chief Dave McBain. Many of you may know Chief McBain from his service as the commander of our 3rd district, the Silver Spring District, over the last several years. Dave is a career officer with the Montgomery County Police Department. He is a graduate of the Montgomery County Public Schools. He is the parent of graduates of the Montgomery County Public Schools. I just learned recently that it was told to me that it was your great-grandfather is the longest-serving mayor in the history of the city of Gaithersburg. So Dave McBain has deep roots in Montgomery County and in our school system. So we're pleased that he's taken on this new leadership position within the police department, filling in for another guy you may have heard of, Mark Yamada, who is now our police chief, who had formerly been the assistant chief for our Field Services Bureau. And the reason why we have Chief McBain on is his division includes our school safety unit, our community engagement unit. So he is now in command of all of our community engagement officers. So, and of course, we're also joined for this conversation by Dr. Earl Stoddard, our Assistant Chief Administrative Officer. Dr. Stoddard, for many people on the call know, he's been involved in a range of activities, but he is also our coordinator for public safety issues, works closely with the county executive and the school system and the police department on all of these issues. So with the start of the school year, it was so great last year to be at the opening day of school. I saw so many police officers, so many firefighters, sheriff deputies, the park police officers, the officers from our municipal departments in Tacoma Park, Gaithersburg, Rockville, all out celebrating the beginning of the school year, letting students know and their families know and the staff know that they're here to help and keep everyone safe. I certainly saw Chief Jones out and about, as well as our new superintendent, Dr. Thomas Taylor. Interesting, as I mentioned, history and certainly the long history that both Marcus and Dave have with the school system. This is the first time that I think we can find that the county executive and the superintendent of our public schools are both actual graduates of the Montgomery County Public Schools. Certainly, if I don't know if people know that Dr. Taylor is a graduate of Bethesda Chevy Chase High School, and of course, the county executive is a graduate of Einstein High School. So, I mean, we've got a trifecta here with Dave McBain, and so many people who are proud graduates of MCPS, and certainly many of us as parents of MCPS students, those of us who attended MCPS. So we wanted to have both Chief Jones, Chief McBain on to talk about school safety. It is of paramount importance to the community, to the county executive, to the county council. Everyone knows that a good school system, an effective school day is based upon a safe place to learn, a happy place to learn. And so with that, want to throw it over to Chief Jones. And again, thank you for continuing your service to the community. And here's your chance to talk to the community through our outstanding press corps about what you see happening this year and how all parts of our public safety family are working together to ensure students, staff, parents are all safe and secure in our buildings.
Absolutely. Thank you, Rich. And I appreciate those kind words. And it's great to be with you all once again, and particularly now in my new role. And I will say it has been a great start to the school year. And in my role as the Chief of Security and working with Dr. Taylor, as well as members of the Board of Education, it's important that we're all on the same page and to work with the county executive, Mark Elridge, as well as his team, also led here by CAO Madalino. It's, again, it shows the importance of collaboration and partnership that's highlighted. And it goes to where we are with the Montgomery County Police Department and our other law enforcement agencies that partner with us for our community engagement officer program, as well as all of our security teams in Montgomery County Public Schools, which we have over 200 security team members that are actually engaged in many of our school activities on a daily basis. And so we've, again, identifying that safety is a top priority for the Board of Education and Dr. Taylor. We have really worked hard to focus that within the system in many ways, and that's working with our principals, our school administrators, and all of our staff. And we really have developed this culture that it's more than just the security team and the police department providing those safe nets for our students and our staff, but it's everybody's job. And so we have this really a motto that says, it's my job, it's your job, it's our job. We're all in this together to create this environment with the different challenges that we have in our system of over 166,000 students and our staff members that do the job of that creates this learning environment that's important to our community. So I am very pleased again that we are working with our law enforcement partners to again create a safe, not only just a safe school environment, but we have to get schools, our students transported to schools. We have to get those students off the buses in neighborhoods. We have to get them into the schools themselves, as well as getting the parents safely in there. And we work through all those challenges with our partners in law enforcement to be able to create those safe roadways for those who walk, for those who drive, and for those who bike. And we know we have a vast majority of those students that also do that. So we again it can only focus upon some of those challenges that we have. I know there's always concerns about vaping. That's new things. We are in the midst of preparing to put vape sensors in particularly in our high schools. That is an ongoing process. We are just waiting for final spending authority to begin that process. That will be happening soon. And we're looking at other aspects of safety to improve upon in order to make our schools safer. So I'll pause there. Rich, I guess I'll pass it off to Activist Chief McBain to further this conversation.
All right. Well, thank you very much, former Chief Jones. And Mr. Madaleno, thank you for the invite to this meeting today. I think the overwhelming positive thing that we have going for us this year is communication. We've met with MCPS, with Marcus, with Superintendent Taylor. We're on the same playing field. We're understanding which each of our roles are in the public school system, and we're coordinating our efforts to just provide a safe school year for our kids, both inside the school, outside the school, around the schools, and obviously to provide safe routes to school. So I just want to kind of break it down a little bit about our footprint in the school system itself, and then also talk a little bit about our traffic safety initiatives that support a safe routes to school. So probably most importantly, right now, Montgomery County has 21 CEOs, community engagement officers, and we are actively filling a position for our 22nd CEO for Poolesville High School. But basically, we are in every single Montgomery County high school, and we accomplish that with assistance from Rockville City, Gaithersburg City, the Montgomery County Sheriff's Department, and Park Police. And so with those other agencies, we have a footprint in all of our high schools. I think what's important to understand is that this year, and I have to give credit to Chief Jones for making sure that this occurred, but all of our CEOs have offices in the high school. We are absolutely not patrolling the hallways, and I think that's important to get across and make sure we're clear about. But we are in the high schools. We're available to school staff immediately, and also we're available to students who may want to speak to an officer about anything that is of concern that they have. So we're in the high schools. We're a part of the security team, and we have good communication with our individual principals and security supervisors. And I think moving forward through the year, that's going to lend itself to us being able to deal with situations that pop up every day in our school system. With that, our primary focus is the school, during the day in the schools. But we also, at lunchtime and various times throughout the day, we have concerns that we want to keep track of that are occurring around the schools. Coming from the 3rd district, I can speak of, Blair High School, where, when you have that many kids at a high school, when they are out and about, that has a bit of an effect to the Four Corners area. And so what we're trying to do is to make sure that things are safe, not only in our schools, but around the schools, and situations that involve students, we immediately coordinate with the Montgomery County Public School System to make sure that we're talking about these issues and making sure we're conveying information back and forth. Again, we although we have a footprint in the schools, we do not take part in any of the discipline to students. That's not the Montgomery County Police Department's role in this. And so that will remain, in effect, and that is something discipline will be taken care of by Montgomery County Public Schools. And then furtherance, when the school day is over with, we when school season started, the school year started, football season is just around the corner, and this weekend will be our first set of games. But again, collaboration, coordination, pre-meetings and preparation for all of these games. We've already met with Chief Jones and his staff. We've met with athletic coordinators. We've done a lot of communication about what our footprint's going to look like at various football games. And I think that based on looking at the entire season, we've come up with a good coverage of all of our games, not only for this weekend, but for the entire season. And again, the communication that we have with Marcus and with Superintendent Taylor, if things do occur during the week, in any particular week of the school year, we can always tweak our response to these games based on any concerns that we might have. And then finally, I will say that we've had a lot of conversations and discussions about any critical incident that may occur at the high schools, bomb threats or active shooter situations. We train on these kind of things all the time. We have a practice set up that involves school security, our ability to get into and around the schools. And so, we're prepared. We've had a lot of discussions. The CEOs have done a lot of training and regarding some of these critical incidents. And again, our communication with MCPS is strong, and we're looking forward to a great school year. It's been good so far.
So both of you have mentioned the team effort that goes into school safety. And I want to remind the entire community that, so Dave, you just mentioned 22 community engagement officers. They are assisted by more than 280 security staff employed by MCPS across the system. The police department employs the crossing guards that help ensure that students, walking, families, biking, everyone gets to and from school. Our public health team, of course, is on the call as they are every week, but Dr. Ashford is responsible for the full school health system. So our Montgomery County Department of Health and Human Services staffs all of the health rooms across the school system. In addition, there are, I'm just looking at the complement for the school year, there are 570 principals and assistant principals across the system. There are an additional 238 administrators across the system who are concerned about school safety. There are almost 600 counselors. There are 135 psychologists. There are 81 social workers. We are serious about school safety, the safety of the students, the well-being of students, whether it's their sense of safety in the school system, their threats that might come from another student, combating bullying, making sure mental health services are provided. I mean, we are, as a community, we want every child to be safe and secure and to succeed in the school system. And we put up an investment across the police department, the health department, and the school system in order to make that happen. So I wanted to make sure when we're just talking about some of the school safety issues that parents, families, taxpayers in this community know this is the range of services that we support our children with each and every day, and who is providing that work. So with that, I am, unless Earl, you have something you want to jump in and say right now, happy to start taking questions.
The one piece I wanted to add, and having run into Dr. Taylor at National Night Out and having a conversation about school safety, I think the one thing that I think we are appreciating very much about his approach is, and this comes down what you're saying, Mr. Jones's involvement in this is consistency across the system. There is, the expectation that, principals have a lot of influence over what happens in their building, but obviously in the safety realm, if you're a high school student at Sherwood or Seneca Valley or Richard Montgomery across the street from where I'm at right now, you should have a similar expectation of safety across the entire system. And so obviously having security staff and CEOs that are all trained together comparably and who are following a similar set of protocols is something that we very much appreciate as an approach that Dr. Taylor is going to bring with Marcus's support to the system at large. So I think it does not seem like a major change, but it is going to be a significant change in how there's universal expectations for how things operate across the system.
All right, thank you, Earl. So we're going to open it up to questions right now about school safety issues. As you just heard Earl talk about, obviously we're all struggling to figure out what to call Marcus these days. Mr. Jones, Chief Jones, Security Chief Jones, Dr. Jones, maybe he'll get that honorific. So with that, everyone, boy, we were an entertaining group because we've got 5 hands up. And I am thrilled to go to Kate Ryan from WTOP first.
Thank you very much. I appreciate that. I have to ask Assistant Chief McBain and Marcus Jones, you've talked about the level of cooperation, the plans ahead for the school year. There are concerns I keep hearing from teachers and parents about the sale of drugs on school property, in the bathrooms. What's going to be different this year? And the level of cooperation that you're talking about, is that a change? Did you not have that before? So if I can start with that, I got a lot of questions, but if we can start with that.
So Kate, I'll start the answer. First of all, I think we've all had these concerns about the increase of drug sales and usage in our schools, particularly our secondary schools. But I will say this: I think we are just revamping our strategy, you may say, of really the focus of being visible in our hallways much more than we have in the past, utilizing all of our staff, actually doing more bathroom checks than we've done in the past. This will also, in the world of when vape detectors are installed, that will assist us with the usage problem that we're having at some of our schools. So there are strategies, and again, we're working with MCPD to talk about more intelligence sharing in regards to drug dealing that may be occurring around our schools and in the neighborhood. So those are issues that we will continue to improve upon. I think we can never rest on our laurels that we think that we may have these situations under control when we continue to receive complaints about it. So we're even engaging many of our students in helping us to come up with solutions and strategies for more positive outcomes. So I will just say that I think that these are the changes that again that we're looking to improve upon. Is not so much a complete change of what we've done in the past.
And Assistant Chief McBain?
Yep. So I think Mr. Jones hit the nail right on the head. Obviously, intelligence that we have, or the school system might have, is critical to share. We have memorandums of understanding with the school system of when we become involved with certain crimes, and really we want to make sure, obviously, when if we have something that is a significant threat or an immediate threat, then we would take action. But there's times that we can work together, and if we identify concerns or concerns with particular students with the distribution of controlled dangerous substances, then we'll work through our investigative abilities to make arrests, but with as little as a disruption to the day as possible. But obviously, I think everyone involved wants to make sure that the schools, bathrooms, classrooms, hallways are just a safe and inviting environment.
Gotcha. On the vaping, I have to ask this, and Mr. Madaleno, the county executive, isn't here, but is the county executive, will the county council okay the $2 million for vaping, for expanding the vape detection? And to former Chief Jones, I'm having the same trouble as everyone else there. What about the pilot program? We didn't see results from what was piloted. I know other school systems have piloted vape detection and pulled them out, saying don't work, not effective. What tells us that these things are going to solve the problem that, again, I'm hearing over and over again from both parents and teachers?
Sure, Kate. I'm confident that the county council will pass the supplemental budget amendment that's before them. Remember, we participated in the lawsuit against Juul, one of the vape manufacturers. So the money for this is coming from our settlement funds. And I do want to reiterate again, yes, we're talking about technology, but the school system has 286 security staff across our more than 200 schools. And that's thanks to the work of the county executive, the school board, the county council. That's a 10% increase just over the last 2 years. So we are making sure that there is continued human security, as well as trying to exploit our technological opportunities in the school system to demonstrate how important these issues are. And as Mr. Jones talked about, with the bathroom checks throughout the school day, keeping watch on the whole building and the outside of the building with the police department to make sure we are ensuring young people attend school in a safe and secure manner, where they're not distracted from smoking, vaping, or drugs.
And the follow-up, Kate, I would just say that first and foremost, what I've discovered in my short time here is that there are a variety of different vendors, right, who have vape sensor products that I think that are different, that provide different results. So we are still in this evaluation standpoint. Yes, the pilot was done, and we looked at a couple of different products that are not equal. And I think though vape sensors is an important aspect, and it will be important in that regard of identifying when vaping is occurring, but it's not the only. I think what Rich just noted about the additional security, but also when I talk about staffing, everybody playing a role in monitoring this, it's going to be a more complete approach to doing this, just other than just the vape sensors being the answer to eliminate that type of usage in our schools. So we've got a lot more work to do. We'll be reporting out more on our findings. Once we actually get these in our schools, that's something that we will be assessing. So there'll be more to come on that as we get this system up and rolling once they are installed.
Okay,
right,
thank you.
Kate,
I have more questions, but I don't want to be that reporter, so I'll be quiet and other people can take over. And I do have a follow-up later.
We can always come back to you later. So next up, Kayvon Dupree.
Yes, sir. Good morning. Thank you all very much for your time. I wanted to begin talking about the vandalism incidents that were occurring prior to school starting. some of the anti-Semitic remarks, as well as hate speech. I just wanted to ask, have you all had conversations, MCPS security team and MCPD, talking a little bit about those as we move into the school year, and what some of those conversations have looked like? And then on a follow-up to that, have you all seen in the week and a half that we've been back in school, have you all seen any occurrences of, hate speech or anti-Semitic activity amongst students?
So Kayvon, I'll answer that question first. The answer is no. And that's good news to the start of the year. I will say that we have been working with MCPD right from the very beginning on all of these horrific acts that have occurred at our schools in across the county. And I will say this: we have put a concerted effort on extra patrols, both with Montgomery County Police as well as Montgomery County Public School security staff in monitoring this activity, and we will continue to do that. We know that there's still very high, I would just say a very bad climate, you might say, in the sense of where folks are, and sometimes who are, doing things to destroy and to really intimidate people in our community in some aspects, beyond with these types of acts. So it is important for us to stay vigilant in that regard, and that's what I would suggest that we are both as agencies doing in conjunction with many of our other community partners to be very vigilant, and we encourage the community to still report out anything suspicious activity that they see, but we will not stop in our really the uptick of our patrols to make sure that we are being visible in the community to deter any of these acts as much as we can.
Yes,
And
sir.
I'll
Thank you.
and I'll just follow that up. Obviously, and also in the Field Services Bureau, our community engagement, every act of hate violence or hate speech, graffiti, we're tracking that information. We do complete workups. We take it very serious. What we find sometimes is there are some similarities throughout the county, and just like any other crime, we try to put a fingerprint on it, and we've had some success. But obviously, by making sure we capture all this information, capturing the type of vandalism, we can pinpoint some similarities that we tried to follow up on and make closure in those cases.
Yes, sir. Thank you very much for that. I did want to ask, about 2 weeks ago for the Board of Education meeting, Mr. Jones, you talked a little bit about some of the new initiatives or things you all plan to implement, such as the student ID program at the high schools, blocking access to social media, and then potentially restricting cell phone use during the school day. And so during that time between then and now, I spoke with a few parents, and they just have some questions about how these measures will be enforced. So I just wanted to see, is there any insight you can provide as to, not only implementing these initiatives, but making sure that they're enforced and the policies are.
So the one that I can speak to that I think could give a little bit of an answer to is our ID program. So we have some of our high schools that are participating in requiring student IDs, to have the students wearing their IDs on every, at school all day, every day. And what we're doing is basically, I've been to a couple of the high schools and observed the students who are wearing them. The vast majority of them are. And when the administrator or staff member sees that a student is not wearing them, they kindly ask them to show it. Excuse me, and then they will ask. Excuse me. Excuse me.
See, I'm worried the school system doesn't give you water. I mean,
I apologize. They would then ask them to show it and then ask them to put it around their neck. So that's working out pretty well. And the students are compliant. So I'll stop there.
All right. And then if I just have time for one more question, this can be either for Mr. Jones or for Mr. McBain or both. Just for parents who may have concerns, sending their students off to school each morning, worried about different safety issues that may be, whether it be, some talking about drug use or some talking about maybe violence in schools, fights. Just wanted to get you all sense or maybe a message of reassurance that you all are doing what it is that you can to make sure that all students and everyone in MCPS facilities are being cared for and safe.
I'll start. Again, I know we keep saying this, but communications where it's all about. A lot of times, things happen outside of the school times and off the campuses. However, they affect the schools because it's the students that may be involved. Whenever we have intelligence or we have concerns or we have, an incident that involved Montgomery County Public School students, we make sure that we coordinate not in the morning, but in the middle of the night. Just like we make notifications to, all officers make notifications to our command staff for certain situations that we deem serious. We make sure that immediate notification to MCPS is made in the middle of the night so that they can begin preparing and being ready for the school day. And overall, I think the fact that holistically through the high schools, that CEO is there in the morning and pretty much at the school for most of the day. I think it provides a sense of security, or at least the ability for us to be at the school as quickly as possible to knock down incidents before they get worse.
All right. Thank you very much.
all right, thank you. Next, we'll go on to Nicole Asbury, who I believe is with the Washington Post.
Yes, thank you. Good morning. I wanted to ask Mr. Jones specifically, now that you've had some time formally in your new position, as you've been reviewing, the different schools' security plans, I'm curious sort of what your diagnosis is. And, have you found that the schools have been at the level that they should be at? I know Dr. Stoddard kind of illuminated a little bit of like consistency across schools is something that might be needing to be fine-tuned. So I'm really curious what your assessment has been. And then I have one second question.
So thank you for that question, Nicole. I will say this, and I haven't served again in my previous role, and having knowledge of a lot of the systems that MCPS already has in place. I will tell you that I found that once I arrived here, that our security team is well trained, very knowledgeable about what goes on in school. I think MCPS has provided many resources to assist with safety in our schools, to include vestibule locks for entry into our schools, security cameras. They provided, again, other aspects of the system that I think it's really moving us into the new age of security for our system. But there is always room for improvement. And at the early stages, again, the one thing, when you deal with just human personnel, the one thing I would highlight is we have a new cadre of principals. We have about 70 principals who are either in their first or second year, and many who are our partners in the world of security, and we are there to assist them and to help guide them in their new roles and to provide them with additional, again, support from a standpoint of partnership, but to make sure that they understand this degree of security and how we need to perform it in a consistent basis across the board. So I am, again, only 30 days, just a little bit over 30 days in on the job. I've identified a few things that I think we will improve upon. And you know, we'll go from there, but I think we always look to be better. That I think is it's an important part of our improvement in the system. But I think, Nicole, I think this system is at a it has a great foundation for continued growth, for better security for all of our students and staff.
And
And
then,
I think it's safe to say, Nicole, that whether it's County Executive Elrich or Superintendent Taylor, they want to hear what Chief Jones has to say about school safety and what Chief Yamada has to say about school safety. I think they have both been very clear at saying, you're the professionals in this space. What do we need to be doing? That's do everything we can to keep our students safe. So we're thrilled to have this outstanding experienced leadership team making sure each and every day everyone is safe in schools and around schools and in their communities.
and then my last question for now is just around, I wanted to ask, I know that weapons detection systems has been floated in the past for the school system. What is the status of that? Like, is it continuing to be under consideration and if not, you know, I'd be really interested to hear if there are any other kind of unique measures being taken. I obviously know about vape detectors and what have you, but what might not have you mentioned to us that we should know about?
Well, I would just say from the weapons detection is something that we are looking at. It is something that's widely utilized in many school systems across this region. And I think it's something that we really need to take a hard look at. I would suggest we're in the early stages of looking at the different products that are available to us. How could we, best utilize that type of equipment? What would be the benefit? How efficient would it be in order for our students to go through this and any other person entering our schools in a smooth and transitional way? And to basically make sure that we are also, as we're talking to our community, that we are helping to understand the why and what are all of the aspects involved in it, so that everyone understands the importance of the weapon detections that we're utilizing that can also apply to identifying vaping instruments that students are bringing into our schools. So that again is at the early stages, but I think we're taking a very hard look to that, and I think it's something that we may be venturing into in the near future.
So I also want to remind everyone, and a lot of kudos go out to Chief Jones, Chief Yamada, Chief McBain. The Montgomery County Police Department has been innovative with technology, a national leader. We have the largest drone as first responder program operating in the country today. We're expanding it. I believe we should be up in the air in the greater Gaithersburg area, soon to be launched in the Bethesda area. We've already got one running out of Silver Spring and Wheaton, and Chief Jones and Chief McBain know, for example, they played a critical role in an incident that happened around Northwood High School last year. That drone up in the air in order to quickly identify some suspects that were involved in an incident that occurred outside of school. So again, this community, this public safety team is willing to be innovative and consider technological solutions that augment the important day-to-day work of the police officers, the security team, and all of our public safety personnel, and the school health team in making sure that everyone is safe in our schools every day. All right. Thank you, Nicole. We're going to go to Ashlyn Campbell, who is with MoCo 360. Senior reporter Ginny Bixby is not available today. So, but she said Ashlyn would be a wonderful fill-in. Welcome, Ashlyn.
Hi, yeah. So I'm the education reporter for MoCo 360. Mr. Jones, we talked a little bit ago about your role, and something you mentioned was that there was some confusion with some of the police officers assigned to the CEO program, maybe not fully understanding their role. So I was curious, what does the training or preparation look like for officers going into the CEO program, and are you guys looking to revamp that?
So I would say the answer is no, Ashley, as far as revamping it. I think it was all about making sure that we had clarity. Just a little bit over, just before the start of school, we actually had a joint training with our school security staff as security assistants and our CEOs together in order to address those concerns and to provide the clarity needed for our current CEO agreement that we have, MCPS has with MCPD. So that's the beginning of, again, clarifying. And again, it's something not only do we want to make sure our police officers understand, we want to make sure our security teams understand, but we also want to make sure that all of our MCPS staff also understand the MOU, as it's important for the principals, the assistant principals, and other administrators, as well as the teachers and the staff to understand what are the rules of engagement. And so those are the things that we continuously work on and clarify. But I think the good start was that we had this joint training just a little over a week ago that allowed for that clarity to be put out front, and we can now move forward. And I think everyone clearly understands what their roles are, to include, as Assistant Chief McBain talked about earlier, in regards to making sure that people understood that the CEOs have office space, for example, in our schools, and there's no confusion about that.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ashlyn. Lily Zhang with Fox 5.
Hi, thank you guys for doing this. So just a quick question. We got confirmation about a school-age child, about 12 years old is our understanding, who's been accused of a few different crimes in and around the Montgomery County area, burglaries, and then apparently, stealing a car, and then ultimately returned back to his parents. The reason why I bring this up is because, of course, this is a school-age child. So whether it's a question for Mr. McBain or the former chief, can you talk in general about the complexities of youth crime? I realize you can't comment on this specific case, but in general, what are the complexities that law enforcement face with youth crime? And from the school safety perspective, is there anything that the school officials can do?
I guess I can start. Most particular to the 12-year-old that you're talking about, that is not a Montgomery County student. Not saying that we couldn't have something similar, but that is a DC resident, and we are actually actively working with the DC government, the police department, and DJS in order to coordinate a resolution, because that young individual is in need of some supervision, and I think it's critical that he gets that. Interestingly enough, because of the fact that he is 12 years old, based on some new legislation that came out of Annapolis last year, that individual, because of age, has to be dealt with quite differently than we would for somebody who was 13 and above. So we're navigating that. But any time that a student commits a crime, or even students that are victims of crime, we coordinate the sharing of information when we're allowed to with Montgomery County Public Schools. listen, ultimately, the police department wants to make as little of an impact on the school day as possible. Obviously, we can't control everything, so there may be extreme times where we would have to make a physical arrest in a school. However, we just don't go storm the school. We coordinate with principals, with security leaders, and we do it smart. We do it in together, and we make as little of impact on the day as possible. And then obviously, when a student is suspect in a crime, or we have probable cause to believe that they've done a crime, we will always opt to not make an arrest on the school grounds or during the school day, and we can certainly coordinate our efforts, and we ultimately share most of what we are doing with these kids with the school system.
And Lily, what I would piggyback on, if that was a MCPS students, I think that one of the things we have to really engage is in our Office of Student Wellbeing, knowing that we can provide some additional wraparound services to the student and their families in order to be able to provide. And again, there are options in which we can actually, if we have continuous problems in really kind of going the child in need of supervision route in order through our court system or our juvenile court system, in order to get the child the necessary the needs that really needs to address that particular problem. Those are some of the things. There are options for us to follow through with. That is just not a everybody throw up their hands and not do anything. I think there are opportunities for us to try to find some support for the child in very different ways that are within the school system, and some are outside of the school system.
I would just add one piece here. And so we've actually had multiple conversations. This is about juvenile services more generally. We've had multiple conversations with the Department of Juvenile Services over the last several weeks, as well as the governor's office, related to expanded opportunities for interventions for our youth. I think Montgomery County and the county executive's position has been very clear on this. He does not want to go back to a position where we're incarcerating in mass numbers youth as a general principle. But there are certainly youth throughout our community who are in great need of support, and we need to make sure that they have that support available to them in a timely manner. We've talked to judges, we've talked to magistrates, we've talked to Health and Human Services. There's a broad consensus around the fact that we as a state of Maryland, and frankly as a region, as a country, need to invest more in youth services as a general principle across the board, because we do not want to incarcerate youth. We've removed that largely, but we have not fully built out a system as a state, country, what have you, that allows for those juveniles to receive the support that they need to not go down the pathways where we have to feel the need to arrest and or incarcerate them. And so I think that's the broader point that we're focused on, is building out that infrastructure that involves MCPS. It involves much beyond MCPS. We need to have a broad set of supports. I would also note, not a lawyer, but there are certain restrictions on what actually MCPD can provide to MCPS if it occurs outside of the school setting. There's a set of reportable incidents that we follow. And obviously, there's got to be some, MOUs and understandings about sort of what can be shared across those things that we have in place. But having spoken to Captain Satinsky, who actually just even last week with Chief Yamada, there is some, going back and looking at and seeing what opportunities there are for better collaborations around youth to make sure that they receive the support that they need.
I appreciate the clarification. Thank you so much.
All right, next we'll move on to Talia Varales.
Yes, good morning. Thank you so much for taking my questions. I'm from Univision, the local Spanish TV news station. My first questions are for Mr. Jones. Has the lack of the reporting of critical incidents by each school affected the way you focus to solve these issues for this new year? And if so, what is being done to make sure that these critical incidents get accurately reported, like fights, any incidents in relation to any arms, weapons? What is being done to make sure that they are accurately reported so that they can get the attention that they need to be solved?
So Talia, thank you for that. What we're actually doing is we're now taking a harder look at the reporting system itself. when we look at serious incident data. So one thing I wanted to clarify, I know in the last board meeting, it was highly emphasized about 4,000 incidents of serious incidents that were reported out last year. The question is, what is the definition of serious incidents? And in MCPS, it's a wide variety of categories. They include bus accidents. They include the vast majority of serious incidents are actually medical emergencies that could happen to a student who has an asthma attack, as an example. So so again, when we classify the term, or we want to define the term of serious incidents, we're really looking at sort of readjusting that so everyone understands what is a serious incident, and then B, we want to be again clearly define the incidents that we're reporting out, such as our fights and assaults. What is the criteria that is required there? So we're like I said, we're in the midst of changing that. And so you're going to see some different data sets as we finalize that through this school year that we'll be able to report out later to the board and clearly help them understand, and as well as the community, what are those definitions so people understand the true data. Because that's one of the things I've really wanted to get behind is what is the data, but it's also what is happening, what is the root cause of these incidents that fall under the security realm, as an example, in security, that we can figure out ways to address that in order to be able to, have a safer environment for everyone.
Perfect. Thank you so much. And then I have a question for Assistant Chief McBain. You mentioned that there are certain situations happening outside of the schools, around the schools. You also mentioned Blair High School. What is something that you are seeing, or what are these incidents that you are referring to?
Really, it's just the sheer number of kids that kind of come into an area at any one given time, right? So when and what happens is a lot of the shops and businesses around the schools sometimes will make complaints about that sheer number of kids, kind of a little bit of disruptive conduct, nothing of major significance. There are sometimes complaints of drug use, and the reality is that is not something that just a CEO would handle. We have patrol officers that obviously patrol the entire county, but that would be a call for service where we work with the CEOs in order to provide coverage or response to any issues that happen around the school.
And in those same lines, what would be your message to parents, the students, to members of our community to be able to prevent situations like that?
Well, the reality is that our kids are part of our community, right? I don't want to prevent kids from using services like going to the McDonald's or going to the CVS and things like that, but just acting appropriately, not in a disorderly manner, being respectful of your surroundings, just like we would ask any other community member. You're a part of the community, but be a part of the community, not an agitator of the community. So I guess that would be my ultimate suggestion.
Thank you.
Yes, reminding young people that when they go out to lunch, even though they might be with a gaggle of friends, there are lots of other people there too. And it's important to be respectful in the school, at lunch, at the mall, wherever they happen to be going, that reminding people that they share the world with lots of other people. So with that, thank you, Talia. With that, we'll go to Judith Ruse with the Olney Gazette.
This is a clarification, perhaps Assistant Chief McBain, on the CEO program. Over the years, it has changed and everybody's either been all in or they've thought, oh, that's too much. Maybe we should just have the officers drive around the neighborhood and be ready to charge in if they needed to. I just want to make sure that you're saying that the police officers or the CEOs are there all day long in and off. They don't just have an office there that they go to from time to time, that they are there all day long.
So I appreciate you giving me the ability to clarify. So understand, a CEO that is at a particular high school and they have an office there, they also have feeder schools, whether it be middle schools or elementary schools, which they make their rounds and speak with principals and other staff at that, not just our high schools, but our middle and elementary schools. And it doesn't mean that part of maybe their daily activities is an investigation what causes them to leave the school. So they are not 100% all day long at the high schools. I think what was important, and I think Mr. Jones was critical to make sure this happened, is that the police officer had a place that they could go to. So if my recommendation to my CEOs is, if you have to write a report or do some administrative work, well, do it in the high school. And you kind of kill two birds with one stone. You're present at the school and you're still accomplishing your daily work throughout the day. But to say that they're there 100% of the time would not be accurate. And so they're there a significant amount of time, but not always.
Thank you very much.
And I think the only thing I would add is, and I think Assistant Chief McBain referred to this, is, they're not patrolling through the hallways throughout the day. They're going to be at the front when kids are coming in the morning, or when they're going out for lunch breaks. They're going to be in the main entrance area, potentially interacting with kids coming in then, or when they're leaving, and things at that point. Key points throughout the day when there's going to be large numbers of students that are all going to be converging on one primary exit or entranceway. And being available there if students want to interact with them, or to make sure that there's no conflict between any students. And all those things are going to be part of their role, but they're just not going to be walking up and down the hallways throughout the day, as a sort of providing what is really a security function during the day for those, which is what the security officers in the buildings are doing. And so I think that's the distinction. I think it's really important about what their role is, not just what their role is, but where you're likely to see or interact with them in the schools.
Okay,
Which is why, again, the school system has 286 security staff and 570 principals and assistant principals across the system.
Okay, but each of them does have an office in the schools and could be there for 5 out of 6 hours a day if they needed to be.
It depends. Again, it depends on what are the needs of the schools, whether these are the other schools, right?
Okay.
But it's been highly encouraged that they focus, that they also, will go and check in at those other schools and provide additional support, whether it be for traffic control at a school, or, visibility for one reason or another. But there is, we want to make sure that they're providing service to all of our schools to provide that visibility that we ask for, and they do a great job of that.
Thank you.
Thank you, Judith. Darcy Spencer with Channel 4.
Good afternoon, and apologies for the voice. I'm trying to get over something here. My fellow reporters had great questions today. I still have a couple. First, of the chief, we kind of danced around the idea of the metal detectors a little bit. Prince George's is full steam ahead with their program, getting them into the high schools and piloting them in the middle schools and things like that. Am I sensing a hesitation here with MCPS and moving forward with this? Is there a concern that there isn't the community support for it, or is it a financial issue?
Well, there's always a financial issue. If we don't have the money, then we gotta find the money. But that's not really. There's no delay. Similarly, just because of a feeling of the lack of community support. I think what we've not done is we've not vetted this entire process. There are lots of products out there that we need to really take a hard look at. One of the things that I want to do as in this position is to be able to do that assessment, but to go to systems like Prince George's County, to Prince William County, Fairfax, who have these school districts that have already implemented the program. It's more than just putting the detectors in our buildings. There's you're now bringing in 3,000. Sometimes at our larger high schools, you're bringing 3,000 students in, generally, in a very short period of time, having to put them through those detectors. You have to have staff available to be able to address that. And so there are a lot of aspects to the program that we want to be able to really vet and assess, and to provide the best system possible that's going to make it very easy and fluid to get our students in our schools and our staff in a very effective manner, that proves that it's worth the investment of that we are going to employ in for this particular type of system. So, but again, we're at the early stages. I'm very serious, and Dr. Taylor is very serious about, again, making sure that we do this we vet this very properly.
And Darcy, just to give you a sense of the complexity here, you originally referred to metal detectors. Obviously, the weapons detection systems have there's varieties that move beyond metal detection. There are obviously AI-based tools. Like if you went to an event at the DC Convention Center, for example, you go through the Bollard system that is screening for, it's using higher end technology to screen for weapons, as opposed to a metal detector where you got to take off your belt, your bag goes through all those things. There's systems that allow for much more efficient flow of people, but then you have to develop the system, like how many people can go through those in a certain period of time. MCPS has long had this multiple entrances to the building are often opened or accessible to students. And so you need, it's a flow issue, as Mr. Jones alluded to, but also the technology is evolving so quickly in this space. And I think we talked about this with the vape detectors before. And so you may evaluate a year or two ago and decided based on the technology that it wasn't ready. And a year or two later, you're having to repeat that evaluation because the technology has improved so much in that short period of time. And so you're looking at a very new product, and there are multiple competitors out there. And so you want to get this right, because as Mr. Jones alluded to, it is expensive. It's like, a single detector at a single entryway is like $120,000 for I think a couple of years. And so not to say that finance is going to be a barrier here, but you want to get it right. You don't want to buy a system that ends up being antiquated in a year, that doesn't get the purpose that you want it to meet. And so being very intentional about making a large change like this, that's going to impact not just the experience of students coming into and out of the schools, but how you deploy your security resources, all those things, because you have to have persons to support those implements as well. And so being intentional about this is the right way to approach it. And obviously learning from the experiences Mr. Jones alluded to of others who have already done it is an important part of being intentional.
And the Montgomery County Police Department is a learning organization. I mean, Chief Yamada, Assistant Chief McBain, the county executive sat down just last week to talk about technology and his desire to make sure we are staying on top of opportunities that would keep everyone, the students, staff, visitors, families safe at the schools. And he is certainly open to new technology when it comes to aiding in the mission, and the police department is staying on top of that on a daily basis.
Okay, and then just following up on something Lily had already asked about regarding the 12-year-old. A lot of us have been following that story as well, doing allegedly multiple break-ins, and I understand it's not an MCPS student apparently, but this is like a Maryland law where you have children being released potentially repeatedly to their parents and going on to commit additional crimes. Kind of what's being done to deal with that? I know we're talking about building out services and things like that, but we're kind of talking about what's happening right now. And there does seem to be a sense of frustration about like they're being released, and sometimes parents even say, I can't handle this child.
Yeah,
And
so
there is frustration, and we are working every day as a team, whether it is the Montgomery County Police Department, the school system, the state's attorney's office, the Maryland Department of Juvenile Services, the Department of Health and Human Services, our municipal partners, our judges. We get together on a regular basis. Earl coordinates this whole criminal justice coordinating commission, where we bring everyone together with state legislators and council members, all to talk about what's happening, the impacts of the laws. The county executive is engaged with legislators, with the governor on a regular basis, talking about how these, how the laws that were passed for a variety of very understandable reasons are playing out and how we can change them. Chief Yamada is very, very engaged in this conversation, as Chief Jones was at the state level. And I know Assistant Chief McBain looks like he's anxious to add something.
I would just add that even though we have specific legislation out of Annapolis regards to 12-year-olds, it doesn't mean that when we have some chronic problems with some youth that we can't impress upon Department of Juvenile Services to take that child into custody for protective measures. So we're always looking at different ways to not necessarily arrest that individual, but as you had said in your question, sometimes even the parents are saying, I have no control. And so we in some cases, we take that child into custody for their own protection.
And
Okay,
just to
Darcy.
clarify that, Assistant Chief, real quickly, does it matter what jurisdiction the child lives in? I mean, is this something Maryland would take on if, for example, it's a child from DC? Does that matter?
I'm not absolutely positive, but I can tell you that we would not be taking action on a DC youth, and I don't believe DC would be taking action on a Maryland youth in that capacity. That's not to say that if a youth committed a crime, but we're talking specifically about this 12-year-old.
That's what I mean. If the crime
Yeah.
is being committed in the state of Maryland, yet they're a resident of DC, would Maryland take that on?
So per legislation, a 12-year-old could not commit that crime. So we're talking about protective custody at that point. So we would work with the District of Columbia in this instance to help them with this child.
But residency is not a get out of jail card.
No, it is not.
Okay, thank you, Darcy. We have some follow-up questions. As Earl mentioned to me, we're coming in at a record for the length of the media briefing because, I mean, who doesn't want to talk to Marcus Jones with a beard? Talia.
Yes, I just have a quick follow-up question just for my own clarification. Sorry if it was already addressed. What is the difference between the CEO program this year and in comparison to past years? Is it just that they now have an office at the schools, or is it also their way of operating?
There is no difference. There is no difference.
And they've had that office.
Yes, they've always had an office, but this is something that we are, again, just clarifying to make sure that all of those systems are put into place. But there is no system. There's no difference in the system.
Thank you.
The agreement didn't change. Okay.
One thing I would add is I think the MOU has not changed at all. It's exactly the same. I think it's the fidelity with I think some CEOs and some principals have developed relationships over the years where they were operating in a partnership, which is what you want them to do. But obviously, we want to make sure they're operating in a partnership consistent with the MOU and consistent with what all of the other principals and CEOs are being held to account. I think there's much greater attention this year being paid to that consistency to make sure that, one CEO is not doing as much as another CEO is, and one principal doesn't have the same expectations. That we want to make sure that they're all operating consistently across the board so that we can then measure, like, is this working for everyone? And if not, what do we need to tweak to make it work for everyone? Because we don't want people to make individual changes that allow the system to work for themselves without telling us that they're making those changes individually. Because if there's a change that needs to be made, we need to make it collectively for everybody.
Okay, back to Kate Ryan.
Thank you very much. And I do appreciate you letting us engage in a marathon Q&A. It's really important though, because this is the single most thing I get asked about. When you mentioned Chief Jones, and I'm going to keep doing that, about weapons detection systems. I know you said it's early in the game, but are you at the point of looking for putting out an RFPs for pilots? At what point does the public get to weigh in on what they want here? And in conjunction with that, are you and Assistant Chief McBain surprised that 3 of the gun stores that were cited in the Attorney's General lawsuit yesterday, all 3 of them were Montgomery County gun shops? What's happening there in terms of keeping guns out of the hands of young people? So I know it's a 2-pronged, slightly different question, but since I have you, I got to ask.
I got it, Kate. You can keep calling me Chief. That's okay. I would just say this is, as it relates to the weapons detection system, again, we're not at the phase of putting out an RFP as of yet. Again, I've only been in the job for 30 days. Dr. Taylor, just a few more days longer than I. This is very early stages. We're in a very early stage of what I would call the evaluation process. And so again, and again, we want to, if we're going to move this forward, working with the Board of Education, understanding that there is a funding mechanism that would need to be going forth. It is, if this is something that we need to, again, it's not budgeted for this particular school year. So where would that funding come from? So there's those dynamics that also have to be put into play. So again, that's why I want to state that we're in the very early stages of that process. I'm going to pass this, the gun store question. I'm not that familiar. I did hear the report. And again, it is something that, it's very, disturbing in its way, because there are these gun laws that need to be addressed with all of our gun dealers to make sure that they're doing it the proper way. But I don't have any particular comment because I don't know that much about the investigation. I'm not sure what Chief McBain may want to add.
Unfortunately, Kate, I'm not even I haven't read that report yet, so I can't really give a comment on that. I'm not familiar with it.
Gotcha. If I can do a quick follow-up, searches for things like weapons or drugs. If an administrator brings a student in and says, we understand that you have something in your backpack there, I need to see it. My understanding is that student can say, I'm not going to let you do a search, and I can walk out of the office. What are the actions that the school can take in a situation like that, both legally and policy wise?
Well, there is a student code of conduct. The students do have the right to refuse to a self-search. And again, it depends upon what the circumstances are, as to what rises to the level of, in the legality terms, based upon the circumstances, that would constitute there's a difference between a self-search for reasonable suspicion that the school may have, and from a legal standpoint, that if there's probable cause to believe that the student has, for example, a weapon in their possession, that may not be necessarily their choice. If the police officer, we can articulate that, then the police could actually search in that regard. So there are regulations surrounding that. This is part of the process and the training. And there's other discipline that MCPS could impose should they want to go that route, including in parent involvement in that regard. So there are options, but again, each circumstances may weigh a different result.
Okay, so can you give me for example, when can you say, I'm sorry, give me the backpack, we're searching it, versus they can say, nope, I'm not gonna.
Well, for example, if we were to say, if we saw on camera that a student was passing a gun to another student, right? And they put it in a backpack, right? We have enough probable cause to believe that a gun's in there, then we'd be saying, give us the backpack, right? So yeah, there are certain circumstances.
Gotcha. Listen, thank you all very much. I really appreciate it.
You're very welcome.
Thank you, Kate. I know, Darcy, your hand is still up. I don't know if you had a follow-up question or you just
No,
had-
that was just remaining, but thank you very much.
All right, so Ashlyn with the last question.
Hi, yeah, sorry. I'm gonna come back to the 12-year-old. Assistant Chief McBain, for the public, what details can you share about what's been going on with that 12-year-old? Because I think there's been some social media posts about it.
Yeah, so because of the age, I'm not so sure there's much I can share with that. I think the takeaway here is that we have a young person who's committing crimes, and we're working through the process of making sure that this young man doesn't hurt himself, and that we take him into protective custody or work with authorities. So I don't really want to go into the particulars at this time because of his age. But I'm sure that we will release more as that case evolves.
And the other thing
you.
I'd add is I actually did have a conversation with Secretary Schiraldi up at the Department of Juvenile Services, and they're actively wanting to get this young person assistance as well. So they'll be working with, obviously it's across state borders here, state,
Yeah.
state in the district. But the all the way up to the secretary level is engaged on this particular case, and the governor's office is aware. We've actually touched base with them as well. So the people who need to be working on this issue, who can get this young person help, are working on it. But obviously at the local level, we're sort of limited in what we, and actually I've had conversations with the state's attorney's office as well. We're all limited in sort of what we can say about that, but all the people who should be engaged are engaged.
Right, I figured. Thank you so much.
Thank you. I want to thank Darcy's hand is back up.
Could I just clarify that, or someone clarify when it's being handled in the protective custody, would this be in DC or Maryland, given the jurisdictional issues, just so we get that correct?
I'd have to check on that, and I can follow up with you later, Darcy. But I believe the District of Columbia is working on a solution there. I can maybe defer to Dr. Stoddard if he had any more on that, but I think so.
My understanding is the same, but we can get you a follow up, Darcy.
Thank you.
Thank you. I want to thank everyone from the media who participated in the questions for today. I want to especially thank and recognize the distinguished service of Mr. Jones, of course, Chief Jones, Chief Yamada, Chief McBain. You know, these three individuals have dedicated more than 30 years of their lives to the service of Montgomery County through the Montgomery County Police Department, now with the Montgomery County Public Schools. They love this community. They love the residents and the students of this community. As parents, as one-time students, they care about what happens in our public school systems. I think you see their passion each and every day, certainly during this phone call, about keeping everyone, our students, our staff, our community, our parents, visitors, everyone safe in and around our school buildings. And so thank you, Chief Jones, for continuing your public service in the community. And of course, Chief McBain, for your continued service to the Montgomery County Police Department.
Thank you, sir.
I want to remind everyone that our budget forums, there are 11 county executive budget forums across the county this fall. You can see the schedule up. There's one more than last year, so we'll be in all parts of the county as normal with our citizens advisory boards, where we'll have one forum aimed at the education community. We'll have one in Spanish, one in Chinese, one aimed at our older adults in the community, one aimed at the African-American community, and one aimed new this year at our African and Caribbean diaspora community. So our immigrant community from both the Caribbean and African nations. So 11 forums. The first one Monday night at the East County Regional Center, which is north of White Oak in Silver Spring. The Silver Spring Jazz Festival is coming up this weekend. So if people want to attend that, and of course, COVID vaccines are out. You can sign up for them and the new flu vaccine at pharmacies across the area. And of course, we want to make sure that people get vaccinated. A vaccine will not necessarily keep you from getting COVID. A vaccine will keep you from getting very sick from COVID or dying from COVID. The vaccines that are out now are designed to address the strains of COVID that are out there right now. So we want to make sure people get their vaccines this fall. There's lots of guidance. The federal government is releasing free tests. I think you can sign up now online and get those tests delivered to your home at the end of September. With that, the bell has rang for Chief Jones and Chief McBain, if you guys need to go. But Dr. Stoddard and I and whoever else from the county government is here, from maybe our public health team, are happy to stay on and answer whatever other questions you have. Please don't ask me about any jazz recommendations, but other than that, you want to show up at the Silver Spring Civic Center. So with that, does anyone have any other questions for us? Okay, we exhausted the local media. I am sorry, Dr. Ashford and Mr. O'Donnell. But again, we will have lots of time to talk about, and as exhausted as we are talking about COVID, we'll have lots of time talking about the positives of getting a vaccine, especially right now when, so many people are coming back together with schools, post-Labor Day, travel, all that kind of stuff. Getting vaccines are going to be so important for continuing for the community to fight COVID and the flu. And with that, I want to thank everyone for your participation today and wish you all a wonderful week.